Let's move on. Overall observations.
Yes. So ball movement.
Yep.
Methods. So we've got speed of ball movement, as we've kept on going on about for the first time, in AFL history. Have we been able to actually measure how fast you are moving the footy all over the ground based off the data that we've got? And we have one person back office every game with a little control that is going back and forth,
Yep.
and timing everything to the nearest 400th of a second.
Mm-hmm.
So to keep in theme with that person having a control in hand, I want to cluster the competition
Yep.
into 6 different clusters,
Okay.
representing a remote control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everyone has a remote control at home that controls your TV, and this is how we're going to group all the teams into these clusters. So think of the remote control and think of the fast forward button.
Right.
You press that fast forward button, and all you're seeing on your screen is everything's just in fast motion.
Yep.
The team that falls into that group is Carlton at the moment. They play fast forward footy. It's fast when they get it, and it's just all towards goal.
Has it changed in their sort of improvement?
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. And this is the fastest version that we've seen of Carlton. We've got 7 years worth of data. So they are overall the second fastest team of the competition. They sit in the fast forward category all by themselves.
Right.
Then you go to the rewind category. So press the rewind button and things are a little bit in slow motion and there's not too much sort of happening. There's 2 teams that sit in that category at the moment. It's North Melbourne and Essendon. So North Melbourne and Essendon are the equal second slowest teams in the competition. And I will reiterate, slow does not equal bad and fast does not equal good necessarily. The scoreboard returns that come from your ball movement method is all that counts. If you're moving it quickly and you're scoring, tick. If you're moving it quickly and not scoring, cross. Okay? So they move it the second slowest in the competition. And in terms of how aggressive they are towards goal, Essendon are the least aggressive towards goal and North Melbourne are the 4th least aggressive towards goal.
Define aggression. Is that the line you take?
Going line straight towards goal.
Okay.
So they are in rewind. They're in the rewind category. Then we hit the pause button.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is a big group here. This is 5 teams worth that are in the pause category. This pause category is pause with the footy, hold, then go. And you go aggressively straight to line, straight towards goal. So in that group is Fremantle, West Coast, Gold Coast, Port Adelaide, and Sydney. They're in the pause cluster. We've never seen a team, we keep saying this, we've never seen a team slower with ball in hand than Fremantle in terms of the amount of time that they take to get rid of it. But in terms of how aggressive they are towards goal, they are the second most aggressive team we've ever seen towards goal. That's the big shift in Fremantle. We keep going on about it.
Yep.
Sydney do it a little bit less aggressively, but that has been a change under Dean Cox as well. And then we go and press the play button on your remote. And the play button is the ball's constantly in motion, not necessarily aggressive towards goal, but just always in motion. We quite often refer to it as the Brisbane model.
Yep.
Get the footy in and just move it. Can go short, can go lateral, but constantly moving it quickly and getting rid of it by hands or by foot quite quickly. So Brisbane obviously sitting there. St Kilda are in the play category, and Melbourne this year are in that category.
Change for the Demons.
So Melbourne, in terms of the amount of time that it takes for Melbourne to get rid of the footy from when they win it to when they dispose of it, no one has ever been quicker in our 7 years than what Melbourne are in that aspect of the speed of ball movement game. So they sit in the play category. Then we move to the button where you're changing the channel. And you're changing the channel and you're changing it quite aggressively. You want to get to the next stage. Hawthorn and GWS sit in that category by themselves. They change lanes and change angles. We've talked about it a little bit on this show.
Yep.
As aggressively as anyone else in the competition. Their eyes are a dead set giveaway, looking straight across the ground. How do we take the ball from one side of the ground to the other? Not lateral, not straight across, but in a forward direction. So GWS, as we keep saying, no one has moved it as aggressively with their change of angles game as what GWS are doing this year. And Hawthorn are moving it the 3rd most aggressively we've seen in a 7-year period with that. And then we go, some remotes have the option to do a split screen, right? Where you get to watch two channels at the same time. There are two teams that sit in the split screen category, Adelaide and Collingwood. So Adelaide, split screen, right? If you're watching an Adelaide game and they're going by foot, they're going the third quickest of any team in the comp. If you're watching an Adelaide game on the next screen and they're in a handball game, they're going the second slowest of any team in the comp. You go to a Collingwood and you get Collingwood on a split screen. If you watch Collingwood by foot, they are going the second slowest in the competition. You watch on the other screen and you watch Collingwood in a handball game, they are going the second fastest in the competition. So you got the split screens of the Adelaide and the Crows. And then the last one is two teams, and they sit there, and they're probably arguably the two most fascinating coaches in the competition. Geelong and the Dogs. And they sit in the TV guide section of your remote, where they choose what mode they are going to play each week by the opposition that's coming up. You don't know what you're going to get from this team on a week-to-week basis. Geelong overall this season, and have been for the last couple of years, Geelong this season are the fastest team in the competition overall.
Yep.
But you don't get that version necessarily of Geelong each week. You look at the last 2 weeks, and Geelong have actually sat in the pause version. Hold, go.
Yep.
Then you look at what they did against Adelaide, fast forward version.
Yep.
You look at the Dogs and what the Dogs did against GWS, they sat in the pause version. Hold, go. Then you look at what they did against St Kilda 2 weeks ago. They sit in the play version, the Brisbane model. Constantly motion, ball moving, go short. So they sit in the TV guide section. We'll change our mode depending on what we want to do and what the opposition are going to throw at us each week.
Very creative observations from you, Hoyney. You haven't got a preferred model.
My model? No, I haven't got a preferred model. No. I know you like the fast model, and probably if I'm going to lean towards one way, I'd like to go down the fast model. But again, as I keep saying, fast does not equal good and slow does not equal bad.
Makes common sense to me.
The scoreboard return is all that matters.
Makes common sense to me to have the TV guide model.
Yeah, and I think you probably need a playing group and a list that is able to adapt and change week on week. And I reckon there's only probably a select few groups and maybe a select few coaching groups in the competition that are able to adapt and change as much as what those two do. And when having a look at this, and then you constantly hear talk around the industry and from various other coaches who's actually hard to coach against and what have you. And a lot of the time, Chris Scott and Luke Beveridge do come up in terms of you're not really sure exactly what you're going to get from them week after week, so you don't sort of consume yourself too much against them. Then having a look at this, it actually makes sense as to why that's the case.
I don't want to jump the gun, but last week you talked about Adelaide chopping off the Giants' angular movements. It looked like the Dogs learnt from that as well, and saw some vision on one of the shows basically showing they couldn't get the ball going.
Yeah, and that's going to be the challenge now for GWS. And I'll talk to them later on in this show. They've got a few other issues as well, but that's going to be the challenge for GWS now. Is you would think the competition is aware of this change of angles model.
Yep.
You think that the competition is aware of Hawthorn's change of angle model, hence why they've had a few issues with their ball movement game this year. How do they evolve over the next 6 to 8 weeks to actually ensure that their offensive ball movement game continues to go in a positive direction is going to be interesting to watch.
Strong start from Dr. Hoyne. We're still going to find out who he is going to put in the health club.
Hoyney's upset a lot of fans from one particular team off the temper text. Richmond.
Richmond.
Where's Richmond?
I have.
Don't mean to embarrass you, but the texts are coming through.
I
What category?
apologise, Richmond supporters. I will have that for you straight after the break. Let me figure out what category. I apologise.
A lot of Richmond supporters listening to Sports Day tonight.
That's a big miss too. It's a big audience, the Richmond audience.
Right.
So I'll come back to you
they've
after
been
the
nice,
break.
though. Could you please ask Mr.
back.
Hoyne if he could just give us the Richmond?
6:31, you'll have that, Richmond supporters. I apologise.
Sorry, Hoyney, but I've got to represent the fans here.
No,
Righto,
that's
talking
fair.
points, Tiger fans listen in. What do you value?
Yeah, so I think we've had this conversation a lot over the last couple of years, and none probably more so this year around Joe Danaher and Brisbane and the impact of a key forward. How are Brisbane going to win without a key forward? And what? If you ever want to understand why we prioritise other aspects of the game as opposed to the pure individual key forward, we're not playing 30 years ago where they just stay at home and they're going to dominate, kick 100 goals. Go back and watch Saturday night, Western Bulldogs v GWS. The best player in the competition after the first 6 weeks goes down with a knee issue, coming up against the best defensive group in the competition, the best D50 in the competition in GWS. So Sam Darcy, not there.
Yep.
They don't replace him with a like for like because there is no like for like for Sam Darcy. Coming against Sam Taylor, Jack Buckley, Connor Ryder, all that. What do? They put 113 points on the scoreboard. They score from almost every second entry against the best defensive 50 in the competition. And they do it off the back of ball movement, off the back of offensive system that generates the opportunity. So Sam Darcy's not there.
Yep.
Aaron Norton, I don't think kicked a goal. If he did, he might have kicked one. I can't tell you goal kickers most weeks. But how they generate the offensive returns comes from the system. You look at across the comp at the moment, Brisbane, Logan Morris, Eric Hipwood, Sam Day, none of them rate inside the top 150 players in the competition. It's okay. The offensive ball movement method will generate the opportunity. Collingwood, right now, I think, if they're not premiership favourites, well, they're
close
up
enough
there.
too. Yep.
Membry, Myercheck, McStay, none of them rate inside the top 200 players in the competition. We keep talking about this. Marbio Chol at Hall rates at number 199 in the competition. If you've got a Sam Darcy, if you've got a Charlie Curnow, if you've got a Jeremy Curnow, great. Jesse Ho, great. It's fine. Like good on you. But you're not worried or too concerned about it if you necessarily don't have that superstar key forward, because your offensive system will take care of the opportunities to get the scoreboard return. And if the offensive system is not there, like we saw with Carlton in the first 4 weeks of the year, doesn't matter who's there. The offensive system's not there. Good luck. Like Charlie Curnow, I know he had an underdone pre-season, but his first couple of weeks when the method offensively wasn't there had no impact because the offensive system didn't generate the opportunity. So I think it's just a learning. I'm not sure what you think, G and Whitey. I think it's just a learning that there's other priorities as opposed to the absolute individual key forward. If you've got one, great. If you don't stress.
What I love about it, Hoyney, is you can see the logic of what you're saying, and it's probably a message for the two clubs I played with, Melbourne and Sydney. Plugger Lockett's not going to turn up again. You got Aaron Francis. The best that Swans forward line has looked this year was when Aaron Francis just went there and led out. And Melbourne, the best they've looked is when they dropped 2 of their key targets and went with 5 or 6 other options that all played under whatever system Goody presented to them. So it's a really, I think, incisive. It's a really good insight into the 100 goal kickers don't exist anymore. So it's really interesting that Danaher, as you say, has been the big issue for everybody when they're thinking about Brisbane, and yet they'll find a way.
Yeah,
and even calling the Bulldogs Giants game on Saturday night, the coaching of Beveridge, he was so unpredictable. Karmas played forward.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Lobb's playing forward. Like, it wasn't a question of, Norton's going to get his opportunity now because Darcy's not there and they'll kick it to him. They went totally different, but they still clearly got lots of looks.
Jeez, I tell you what, the Tiger discussion has dragged in the other side as well. Richmond are off the off button. Unwatchable. Hoyney, what have you started here?
14 minutes. 14 minutes.
Okay, it's official. Dr. Horn says Richmond are irrelevant. Oh, come on, Steve.
Hold tight.
Richmond's like me with my controls at home. They go missing down the back of the couch.
Are they on the list? They're bloody impressive at the moment, the Tigers. I know they're not winning too many games, but they are looking very exciting. Okay, we're rolling on. Righto, move on. Geelong.
No, Carlton. So we'll go with Carlton first. So I think when you've got a defensive profile like Carlton has had for the whole 7 weeks, this isn't just 3 weeks, this is 7 weeks. When you've got a defensive profile like they have, things can turn, and they can turn quickly. So right now, without the footy, they are number 1 in the competition. To put that into perspective, over the last 10 years, the team that has finished number 1 without the footy, 8 of those 10 years, they've gone on to make at least a prelim final. right?
And that has got the Carlton juices starting to flow, Hoyney.
So 8 of the 10 years are going to make a prelim. And watching what they did against an offensive team like Geelong, who have been at times this year brilliant offensively, they absolutely dismantled them with how they were able to shut them down, especially off the back of intercept.
Yep.
So Geelong started with the footy 67 times from intercept. Sorry, 66 times from intercept. Take out that Tom De Koning howler in the back 50 where he coughed up to Mark O'Connor. Battle. 67 other times they turned the footy over Carlton for 2 goals, going back the other way. It was phenomenal with what they were able to do. And I just want to give Jack Silvani a bit more credit than probably, I know he's getting, some plaudits, but
give him the polish.
What he does with ball in hand, if you're I know you're going to miss him for a couple of weeks. What he does with ball in hand, no other key defender in the competition does. No other key defender in the competition impacts the game more through ball use than what this guy does. His ability to be able to pull the trigger is Jeremy McGovern-like. I know that might sound a bit, ridiculous, but his ability to be able to see a corridor target and go for it is so impressive with what he's able to do, both right foot and left foot.
Probably gettable to any club who showed interest in him a couple of years ago, but Vossi's resurrected him.
And hats off to him.
Would he be in the All-Australian team right now?
No. Wouldn't be in the All-Australian team right now, but he's doing a lot right. There's a lot of other good key defenders in the competition.
Moving on, let's go to the Cattery.
Yeah, so this is the conversation that I wanted to have with the two of you tonight, and especially yourself, G, with your background, in physiotherapy and in my world, you're almost a doctor without being a doctor. I always go to you when the kids are a bit crook, and what do we do? What do we do here, G? But so Tom Stewart, okay, been a superstar of our game. So 5 straight years in a row, been a top 100 player in the competition. For the last 6 years, no one's generated more offensive return from their intercept game than what Tom Stewart has. Second best interceptor in the competition, but scoreboard return, clearly the best in the competition. We know he's a superstar. But what he's doing at the moment, the poor bugger, it's just not him. And
when you say at the moment, how many weeks?
His last 3 games, so forget about the St Kilda game where he goes off in the first 15 minutes, whatever. For the last 3 weeks, he's taken 1 intercept mark for 3 weeks. For the last 3 weeks, he's intercepted the footy 7 times. Put that in perspective, on average for the last 6 years, he's intercepting close to 10 times per game. So for a 3-week period, close to 30 intercepts, not 7.
Not 7.
Okay, so what he's actually producing at the moment potentially is hurting Geelong on field. So we talked about their intercept game against Carlton, just not being there because this guy, he can't move at the moment. So
he looked like he aggravated his knee just before quarter time.
And I'm looking at it, and this is what I wanted to ask you, and clearly the Geelong doctors would know 100 times or 1,000 times more than me, but they're not in it to finish 8th and just celebrate getting to a final. They've been around for 20 plus years. They've done this. They do finals with their eyes shut. They're in it to win it. So the Paddy Dangerfield model of 2024, where he had to miss best part of 6-7 weeks through injury, and he came home, he's back into the year, he was red hot, and they get within 2 minutes of potentially winning a flag.
Yep.
And the 22 model of Paddy Dangerfield, where he had to miss another 6-7 weeks through injury, and was absolutely cherry ripe and unlucky potentially not to win a Norm Smith medal grand final day, right? So potentially I'm looking at this guy going, like, can you just put him on? Can you put him away, even if it's for 3 months? Doesn't matter. Like, just you're there to win it this year, and you're going to need him at his best to win it. And I look at what they did against Adelaide with their intercept game, with him not being there. Like, they've evolved to a point where they've got a greater collective behind the footy that can impact the game outside of this guy. Whereas I reckon 5 years ago it was Stewart or bust.
Yep.
Now you look at Zach Guthrie, Humphreys, O'Sutherland's there. They'll get Jack Henry back shortly. Sam De Koning's going okay.
Maybe even try Ollie Henry back because he's not working up forward.
And just look at this guy and go, he's one of our prize pieces that we need him cherry ripe for August and September. I don't know what you guys think.
He had a bad run last year where they ended up putting him in the midfield just
that was
to get
he
his
was tagged
form back. Yeah.
I think Hoyney, the doctors would be concerned because he had the PCL little strain, and what we saw on the weekend is he decelerated really quickly and he came up with another really sore knee. Whether or not it's the same issue, I assume it is. And I think it's a fair point to raise that if he's not producing, even though they've got missing Henry, so they're a little bit exposed, but if it's going to see him back to his very best, if they gave him, say, 4 weeks rest or 6 weeks at the most, you'd probably consider it.
But I think for them, behind the footy, as I said, they've got so many options. They came up against one of the best offensive teams in the competition in Adelaide with him not being there, and they were fine. They were fine behind the footy. I think with them, it is big picture just about as much as it is for anyone else.
We've got to go to a break. You've got the stethoscope out, and we're just assuming that it's linked to his knee. Until we know that to be fact, then I guess we are just poking the thermometer around looking for a disease.
Guess who? Quick.
Guess who? Who is currently the number one post-clearance contested possession team in the competition? Number one post-clearance contested possession team in the competition.
Hoyney, your question before the break for Guess Who was?
Who is the number one post-clearance contested possession team in the competition at the moment?
I'm going Suns.
Gold Coast. Gold Coast are actually high. Gold Coast, I think, is second, I think.
You're on the podium.
They're second. It's a good group. It's a really good group here, the top 8, definitely.
You get anything for second?
No, you don't. I'm just glad that you didn't win it and your gloating can stop for the next 7 days.
For all the texts that have come in, and there's so many of them, it's a real mix tonight, to be honest. There's a few for Essendon, a few for Port Adelaide, quite a few for Freo.
So Port Adelaide number 18, so you can rule that out.
Okay, so Essendon's probably got, that was my pick, Essendon, but there's probably the most for Essendon and then Freo and then maybe St Kilda would be the top 3 from the text.
Well, I'm going to get done here tonight, but I'm going to get done proudly because the viewership and the audience clearly know, and they've been listening for a while. And then Whitey comes in and he nails it as well. So Essendon are the number one post clearance team of the competition.
Well, you have gone down again. We're a team. You've gone down again.
We've got 1 and 2.
That's it.
But I'm proud to see all the text coming through from Essendon. This is like a proud dad moment.
You said we could never get near it. We picked the Quinella.
So just to give Essendon supporters, a little bit of love and a bit of excitement for where this young group could potentially get to. So to be the number one post clearance team, we talk about 65% of the game is outside of stoppage area, which is where these contested possessions come into play. So over the last 10 years, if you've been number one in the post clearance contest game, 8 times you've gone on to actually make a preliminary final.
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10 you've gone on to make a preliminary final, and all 10 have gone on to make at least a semi-final by being the number one post-clearance team in the competition. So, and the beauty about this, as if you're an Essendon supporter, is who is getting the job done in this aspect of the game.
Young
and
people?
It's your youngsters. It's not Zach Merritt. Zach Merritt's going quite well in it. But number one is Nate Caddy, 19 years of age. Number 2, Archie Roberts, 19 years of age.
He's had a good, impressive start.
Yeah, number three is probably no surprise, Sam Durham, 23 years of age. They're your top 3 in one of the more important aspects of the game for how you win contests. You win these contests, it's going to give you a greater chance at generating strong offensive looks, and it's either going to deny, otherwise it's going to deny the opposition their offensive returns as well. So just a bit of praise there for Essendon and what they're doing in a really important aspect of the game.
Tony Baum has just texted through and said, "I'm a beaten up Essendon supporter, looking for some positives. Thank you, Hoyney."
No worry. No, and now, can we just dovetail back into the Richmond?
Yes, because there's a lot of
still coming for you.
I got a lot of mates of Richmond supporters, so my phone's been going off. So
Uncle Dino's just giving you a nice old savage.
Yeah. So Richmond will sit in the rewind category with North Melbourne and Essendon. So there'll be 3 teams that will be in that cluster of the rewind category there for the Tigers.
Is it a factor of being on the bottom of the ladder?
It might be a factor of being young and trying to protect yourself defensively potentially as well.
Yep.
So it'd just be interesting to see if that model changes within the season, if they continue to grow and they look to develop a new way of trying to move the footy as well.
How do you explain from a style perspective what happened in the Sydney Suns game on the weekend, where the Swans just dominated and then they just got dominated? I
think that was more just such recognition for where this Gold Coast team is actually going. If you haven't got the ability to be powerful in a 30 or 40 minute period, almost forget about it and forget about your chance of being successful as the year goes on. You think back over the last 3 years, 4 years, you go back to all the good teams, Brisbane and their ability to be able to get such strong scoreboard return in a 30, 40 minutes period and just kill the game. Collingwood made a habit of it in 23. Geelong couldn't do it for a 3 or 4 year period. And then in 22, when they released the shackles and changed the way they played, they made a habit of it. And watching what Gold Coast did in a 45-minute period to basically flip the scoreboard by best part of 70 points off the back of not what Matty Rao was actually doing. Anderson was pretty good, but off the back of what some other individuals were doing, I thought that was more full credit to Gold Coast.
Bailey Humphrey's best game of his life.
As opposed to the negative of the Swans, and we'll get to the Swans shortly. So
Bulldogs did that similar thing on Saturday night as well, just 30 minutes of powerful football.
You haven't got that 30-minute power?
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Rightio, Hoyney, you got less than 30 minutes to power on. You want to get into the pies.
Yeah, so Collingwood, I was really interested in hearing Craig McRae post-game Anzac Day talking about, when he was asked about the 2023 version to what we're seeing of the 2025 version. And he constantly mentioned the word evolve.
Yep.
You have to evolve. You can't sit still. You got to keep moving. And they are similar, but they are also very different with their profile in 25 compared to their profile in 23. So their profile in 23 was all built off this ballistic ball movement across that halfback area in the competition. No one scored more out of their back half in 23 than what Collingwood did. And from their forward half game, they were actually 11th in the comp. So it was off the back of ball movement. Whereas this year, they've got the even balance between both their ability to score from forward half and their ability to score off the back of their ball movement game. Their pressure forward of centre and their ability to be able to win the ball back in their forward half of the ground is number one in the competition. No one creates more turnovers in the forward half of the ground than what Collingwood do. 2023, they were 11th in that area. The scoreboard return in 2023 was bottom 6, whereas right now it's top 4. So there has been a shift around forward half pressure, get the footy in your forward half, try and win it back closer to goal than what you were doing in 2023.
Just trying to think of the personnel changes. It hasn't been huge, has it?
No, but I think it's a bit more of a shift in terms of how they're actually defending behind the footy compared to what they were doing in 2023. So just a bit of credit to Craig McRae, the Collingwood coaching staff, for having to evolve and not just purely relying back of what we did in 2023, injuries last season. Let's just revolve back to what we were actually doing a couple of years ago. No, we've actually got to change and actually, be
one
a little bit
One of the important personnel for that area would be Lockie Schultz.
Yeah, and he, before he went down with injury, he was actually having, a really impactful, season ahead of there. They have changed up their tools ahead of the footy. They are different behind the footy now with Houston and Josh Dacos playing across those halfback flanks. They didn't have that in 2023 with those two individuals there as well. And just before we leave the Collingwood conversation, so obviously it's a big week for Jack Crisp this week. So I thought, let's try and celebrate this individual. And our rating system, as we keep on going on about, it's about impact, not necessarily volume. Give me the impact over the volume. And he's been one of our pin-up examples for our rating system for the last 10 years. So since he's arrived at Collingwood, over that whole period, he's the 17th best player in the competition over that 10-year period. And think back of the names that we've had in our competition over that last 10-year period. To be inside the top 20 in the competition in that time has been, is brilliant. Scott Pendlebury will go down as no doubt a legend of Collingwood, potentially a legend of our game. He's the second highest rated player for Collingwood over the last 10 years, Jack Crisp, behind Scott Pendlebury.
Wow.
So he's been super...
Great acknowledgement for the numbers.
And then this is where it just gets even better. This is where we never forget talking about him heading into the 2023 grand final in this show.
Yeah.
So the last 10 years, our top 3 finals players for the last 10 years.
Drum roll for this. If we can get a drum roll, this is massive. Given you told me that Luke Shuey was the
Dustin Martin.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Greatest finals player?
By a stretch.
Okay.
Jack Crisp, number 2.
Oh, play Jack.
Luke Hodge, number 3. That's the company that this guy is in the biggest moments of our game for the last 10 years.
That's an awesome
the
recognition.
Second best finals player for the last 10 years, Jack Crisp.
We need to get him on, Jack, just to give him the honorific, whatever we're going to give him.
Well,
maybe
you should give him a set of steak knives because that's
he
what
was the original steak knives, yeah. But the boys are all up whining and dining at our major sponsors,
Cobram Estate.
Cobram Estate. Hopefully, we can get him a bottle of oil at least.
So well done, Jack.
Well done. That's a great stat.
Just wanted to recognise him and just the player that he's been.
That's
so,
cool.
Well done.
Super great research.
All right, the Giants and the Swans are taking on each other on the weekend, and you've got a bit on both.
Yeah, so the Giants don't want to overreact to that performance on the weekend. Okay, we'll get to the aspect that did go wrong, but there was a lot of other things that did go right. in that game. We talk about the post clearance side of things. Plus 17 against the Dogs in that area. They actually had more shots than the Dogs in that area, and expected scores actually had GWS winning the game by 2 goals.
Right.
Okay, they lost it by 32 points. One of the biggest swings that we've seen in our time of doing expected scores. So, reality check, it's not all broken and it's not all bad. Don't necessarily panic. However, this midfield group at the moment, I know there's been a lot of talk about this midfield group and potentially them being the reason as to why they're conceding so many entries. I just want to put 2 players on the radar. Okay, so Josh...
For good reason or bad reason?
No, for bad reason. We're putting them on watch. So Josh Kelly.
Yep.
Currently rated as a 271st player.
He was in the top 20
in the competition. And his ball use. Tim Taranto and Clayton Oliver get criticised significantly for their ball use.
Yep.
This guy at the moment is in the Tim Taranto, Clayton Oliver category for how he is using the footy. 371st in the competition with what he's doing with ball in hand. And the other one...
Is he going for too much or is he kicking under pressure?
No, it's just a bit of everything. Just a bit of... And then the other one is Finn Callaghan. So, yes, his round 0 game was phenomenal. And, yes, on the absolute stat sheet, you look at, he's averaging 30 disposals a game, whatever. Impact. Since that round 0 game, 273rd rated player in the competition. So, without these two going as well as they need to do from a ball use perspective, the ball is living in their back half.
Yeah.
And it's putting this defensive group under enormous pressure that at some stage it's going to give. And I just wonder whether or not, if these two can't get going, what they potentially do with Lockie Ash, who right now is the second best player in the competition.
Yep. Leave him where he is, Hoyney. Don't
create
it 2 problems.
I agree. But if we're here in 4 weeks' time and the same issues are still happening.
Toby Green, Hoyney.
Well, Toby Green started to go in there, but Toby's impact as a midfielder isn't nowhere near as significant as what it is as a forward. So I don't know.
Leave him where he is.
Toby.
Yeah. Who else?
I'll be having a look at Lockie Ash, the best ball user in the competition. Lockie Ash. The other two aren't getting the job done.
Yep.
How long do you hold tight before you look at this magnet and what you do with him?
You can guess where Lockie Ash is going to be playing next week.
What about the Swans?
Swans, so there's a lot of uproar at the moment. 2-5, made a grand final last year. What's going on? Dean Cox making some moves. It hasn't worked. Sometimes it's just as simple as last year, there was no one who had a greater run with injury than what Sydney did. No, games lost to the best 22 last year, fewest in the competition and by a long way.
Mm-hmm.
This year, they've lost the 3rd most games in the competition to their best 22. Okay, so he has been dismantled from an individual perspective. And then you can lose games to your best 22, but then there's some certain individuals that you just can't replace. And Errol Goulden is that player for Sydney. So his ability to be able to connect with what he does, ball use going inside 50, is like very few in the competition. Their forward 50 work last year, second best in the competition. Right now, it's the 3rd worst in the competition. And the quality of entries that they've got, especially when they go deep and close to goal, they had the highest quality entries of any team in the competition last year when they went deep, top of goal square. This year, 2nd worst quality of entries going inside forward 50. So sometimes it can, I don't know about you two, but sometimes we can overcomplicate it. We can overanalyze it. We can look at some individuals. We can look at some magnets, and I get that. But you need some luck in this game, and they have not had luck so far this year.
Yep. If I was looking at anything outside of the luck, and it's a massive issue, I think you've enunciated it perfectly. But hack turnover kicks coming off the half-back line killed them on the weekend. They should have been 4 more goals up at halftime.
Yeah, and I think for the Swans, they revolve so much around their big five, being Hoyney, Warner, Blakey, who are still there, and then Papley and Goulden, who aren't there. So the list management and recruiting team have got a lot of work to do to establish a bit more depth and a bit more talent around the edges outside of those 5. But right now, they revolved around 5 last year. 2 of them are missing. Makes sense what's happening.
We haven't got a lot of time here, Hoyne, so we've got to whip through these. Who did they miss?
Yeah, so go all the way back to Anzac Day Eve and Trent Rivers. So we had him as the 5th highest rated player on the ground. Didn't get a vote. I think what him and Jake Bowie are doing at the moment is crucial for Melbourne's offensive games. Had a really good last 2 weeks. Trent Rivers. So George Wardlaw on Saturday against Port Adelaide, 3rd highest rated player on the ground. Didn't get a vote. He is also a ratings player. In his 28 games, you can already see the impact that he's having. He's only playing limited game time at the moment, but he's still having significant impact on the competition.
Somebody from the Giants?
Yeah, our man will keep going with this guy. Lockie Ash, highest rated player on the ground, didn't get a vote. Couldn't believe that. 2nd highest rated game of his career.
Best halfback in the game at the moment?
2nd best player in the game.
2nd best player. That'll get you a spot in the halfback flank.
He's flying. I want to give Noah Anderson a bit of recognition. So he did get 2 votes from the coaches.
Yeah.
But we had him as the 2nd highest rated player on the ground. And I think
everybody linked him with Matty Rao, didn't they?
Yeah, so I think correct. So I think the way that he was able to handle the James Jordan tag, his evolution in his game, his ability to be able to impact the game at stoppage was impressive. This guy at Carlton, highest rated player on the ground was Elijah Hollands. Didn't get a vote. Actually, his 2nd highest rated game of his career. Yeah. He's going to be critical, I think, to what Carlton are going to be able to do for the rest of the season.
They're a different unit with a couple of blokes back, aren't they?
Yeah, he's just creative. Again, we talk about impact. This guy has impact with what he does, ball in hand, and how he actually wins.
Nice work from the Dutchman.
Really good footballer.
MDP?
Yeah, Bailey Humphrey, highest rated player of the weekend. Phenomenal. Ball use, Jamie Elliott, the ratings reward accuracy highly and significantly hurt you with poor inaccuracy. What he did on Anzac Day was superb. From a ball-winning perspective, this guy, Joel Frazier, no one has impacted the game more from a ball-winning perspective in a game this year than what Joel Frazier did against GWS on the weekend. Flying. That guy, and through their defensive actions was Tom Atkins. So Tom Atkins this season, actually, he's had 76 tackles. No player in the history of the game has done that after round 7 before.
Right.
Nice work from Tom.
12 more tackles than any other player ever before at this stage of the season. So well done there to Tom Atkins. And I've gone a double gem.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to really celebrate Gold Coast and what they're doing at the moment. So from a profile perspective, the core 4 is our starting point. It's the equal best profile we've seen at this stage of a season over the last 10 years. It was equal with the Dogs in 2021, who went on to make a grand final. So they are
doing everything right. The
absolutely
Suns.
Flying at the moment, the Suns, which is why I cannot wait. Sunday night, I know you're calling it for SEN, Whitey. It'll be a ripper. And then Bailey Humphrey, 13 contested possessions, 5 clearances, 4 goals. Only 2 Gold Coast players have done that in the history of the footy club. Bailey Humphrey and Gaza. Gaza did it 6 times.
Oh, go Gaza. Maybe the pineapple grapple will be the second time he does it. We'll send you off with a text from Andrew Hoyney. He says, great work, Hoyney. Arguably the most interesting footy discussion on SEN by you. Thank you to Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. I'll shout you a bottle of red when I see you, Andrew.
And he said, don't leave Richmond out again.